are you launching with Grubhub today?
Well, I think it's bigger than Thanksgiving, right? As we look at what's happened to small restaurants, local restaurants across America, and we look at the food insecurity we have, particularly around seniors who are struggling to get out and find the resources they need, we wanted to create a program that would drive millions of dollars through these local restaurants and in turn ask them to feed people. And so Grubhub stepped up in a very big way off of a single tweet that I sent out and brought World Central Kitchen to the table. We started the program today. And ironically enough, a couple of days ago, Alex Rodriguez and I made our first surprise visit to a restaurant on Southwest A Street. And we bought 3,000 meals for one family and for one restaurant. So we feel very strongly that we got a big problem here, restaurants struggling and people hungry. And so we're trying to fix that.
Yeah. And so people, when they're using Grubhub or Seamless, I think they take the change, they donate that. And again, look, it does go to show we like to pile on big tech and on Twitter, but I'm glad that something that you kind of put out there has all of a sudden led to this. You mentioned
it's bigger
working
than
with
that.
A-Rod. Is that for the... Sure, go ahead.
I think it's bigger than that. I think the big issue that we have, right, is that a lot of these local restaurants have been very hard to criticize these food delivery apps, and hundreds of millions of dollars were put into developing this technology over the last 5 to 7 years. And what I've told every local restaurant owner in America that I've talked to is, had Grubhubs, the DoorDashes, et cetera, has not been there for us, these restaurants wouldn't even be open today. They've created this bridge. So while the fees may seem higher than people would like, this technology is bridging the gap from consumer to business. It didn't exist 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's a great point. In the show, I mean, when you're looking across the country to help out these small businesses, was this an idea that came kind of after and as a result of the pandemic, or something? I know you've obviously been working a lot in this vein for years anyway.
You know what I think what's happened is, for the last 8 years, we've been making the profit on CNBC. We've invested in over 100 businesses. And the reality is that some of those businesses that were on the show have really struggled, and some of them haven't made it. And the number of applications that we've seen to be on the next season of The Profit seem to be skewing towards local restaurants. And the alarm bells went off for all of us and said, listen, this is not only a small restaurant problem, this is a food distribution problem, whether it's the Cisco's of the world, it's a commercial real estate problem. And it's just going to continue to pile on. And that's really what's driving a lot of this for me, along with the food insecurity.
Marcus, good to see you again. It's John Fort.
John, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. I wonder, as you look at these small businesses and their path, not just for the next year, but for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years, the kind of help they're going to need, the kind of advice they're going to need. What are you saying to them? How are you structuring your own advice? And what would you tell the government to do?
Well, listen, I've been waiting along with a lot of other people for the government to step up and solve the problem for a lot of different people, particularly businesses that are being just hammered by this. I don't have time. You don't have time. Nobody has time to wait for the government. So as private citizens and private entrepreneurs and capitalists, which is what I am and why we have CNBC, is to really try to create a solution for people. These local restaurants, if they don't renegotiate their leases, renegotiate their food costs, and simplify their process with the understanding that technology is going to be a necessary part of their business going forward, we're in trouble. There's a lot of these restaurants that don't have websites, they don't have relationships with companies like Grubhub, and they're complaining. And I respect that and I sympathize with it. But it's time to get on board with the website, with the delivery service, with renegotiating things. No more complaining. It's time to get to work and really solve these problems.
Yeah, it's tough. Marcus, let's talk about a different part of the business world right now. What's going on with Camping World? We know RV demand has been huge, especially over the summer. But what trends are you seeing play out now with the spread of COVID, but also heading into the colder season?
Prior to COVID even really coming into the forefront, I remember being on Power Lunch, 8 or 9 months ago when we first were talking about it. The RV business was already doing pretty well, but it's clear that first-time buyers have come to the market and the demand outpaces the supply by probably 3x. Our inventory as a company is down. We reported our last quarter. I think we were about 200 and some odd million in EBITDA, which is a significant increase. But the supply-demand curve right now is broken, both on the labor side because of COVID and the workplace, and on the manufacturing side. And it's a problem for the marketplace. Here's what I will tell you, whether it's anything outdoor related, boats, RVs, anything like that, the demand is just off the charts. And I don't think it's just a COVID thing. The business continues to be really, really strong, really strong.
Yeah. Well, that's, again, kind of a glimmer, a brighter spot, because we know it's really, really tough out there, as you were just describing, especially for restaurants and small businesses. Marcus, thanks for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you.
Marcus Lemonis is the prophet. And you can catch his new show, Streets of Dreams with Marcus Lemonis, premiering right here on CNBC, December 29th at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.